The Discovery drifted through empty space, its sensors sweeping across a star system that shouldn't exist. Rachel Ward checked the readings for the 15th time that hour. The numbers made no sense. A dying red giant sat at the center, bleeding radiation into the void, but orbiting it, untouched by the stellar winds that should have torn it apart millions of years ago, hung something impossible. "Distance to target?" Rachel asked. David Kim looked up from his console. His hands moved across holographic displays, pulling up data streams. 40,000 kilometers and closing. The structure is holding stable orbit despite gravitational anomalies that should rip it into component atoms. Should being the operative word, Owen Barnes muttered from his station. The security chief had spent the last 3 days trying to make sense of the sensor data. Everything about this object violated known physics. The object filled their forward displays now. 50 kilometers of dark material that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. The obelisk rose from no visible base, its 4 sides perfectly smooth. Mathematical patterns flickered across its surface in pale blue light. Equations that shifted and changed faster than human eyes could follow. Atlas. Analysis, Rachel said. The ship's artificial intelligence projected itself as a simple blue sphere above the main console. Material composition unknown. The structure predates any known civilization in galactic records. Age estimate minimum 200 million years, possibly far older. The mathematical broadcast is a universal language based on prime numbers and geometric constants. Can you decode it? David leaned forward, his eyes fixed on the shifting symbols. Already done. The message repeats every 47 seconds. Translation reads, "All who seek transcendence enter and be measured." Silence filled the bridge. Rachel felt her pulse quicken. Transcendence. The word carried weight, promise, danger. In 2 centuries of space exploration, humanity had found ruins, dead worlds, fragments of lost civilizations. But nothing alive, nothing active, nothing that invited them in. "There's more," Atlas continued. "I'm detecting an entrance port on the northern face." "It's opening," Owen stood up. "That's convenient. Also terrifying," agreed. Rachel made her decision. They'd come too far to turn back now. "David, you're with me. Owen, assemble a security team. Atlas, maintain position here and monitor everything." The shuttle detached from Discovery 30 minutes later. Rachel piloted it herself, guiding the small craft toward the opening in the obelisk's side. The entrance was a perfect circle, 20 meters across, leading into darkness that their lights couldn't penetrate. "Atmospheric analysis shows breathable air inside," David reported. "Temperature is 20 degrees Celsius. Humidity at 60%. It's like someone prepared this for us." "Or for anyone," Rachel said. She flew them through the entrance. The interior opened into a vast chamber that defied the exterior dimensions. Impossible geometry stretched in all directions. The walls glowed with soft white light, revealing a space the size of a city. At the center, a pillar of crystalline material rose from floor to ceiling, pulsing with blue energy. Rachel landed the shuttle on a platform that seemed designed exactly for that purpose. The team stepped out, weapons ready, scientific instruments active. The air felt still, ancient, waiting. David approached the central pillar first. His scanner hummed. "This is incredible. I'm reading data storage capacity that exceeds anything we've built. This thing could hold the entire sum of human knowledge 1,000,000 times over." The pillar responded to his presence. Holographic displays materialized in a circle around them. Images formed in the air, 3-dimensional and perfect. Rachel saw creatures she'd never imagined. Some walked on 6 legs. Others floated. One species seemed to be made of living crystal. Another was pure energy contained in magnetic fields. "What are we looking at?" Owen asked. David moved between the displays, his eyes wide. "Species, civilizations. These are records." He stopped at one display showing insectoid beings with 4 arms and compound eyes. Text appeared beneath the image in human English. Species 3.847. Classification: Hive intelligence. Homeworld 4th planet Rigel system. Status insufficient. Insufficient for what? Owen touched another display. This one showed beings of liquid metal. Species 5,191. Status insufficient. Rachel walked the circle of displays. Every single one ended with the same word: insufficient. Her blood ran cold as the number of displays became clear. "Atlas, how many records are here?" The AI's voice came through their communication devices. "Scanning now." Initial count 8,192 unique species records. They all failed, David whispered. Every single one. The central pillar flared brighter. The holographic displays vanished. New text appeared in the air before them, letters 3 meters tall, written in every human language simultaneously. Welcome. Species 8193. You have been invited to demonstrate worthiness. The trial begins now. The floor beneath them shifted. Rachel felt her stomach drop as the platform lowered into a chamber below. White walls surrounded them. The pillar's light followed them down, casting sharp shadows. A new display materialized. This time it showed an equation. Rachel had studied mathematics at the academy, but this was beyond her. Symbols she didn't recognize mixed with familiar operators. The equation stretched across the wall, complex and beautiful. Can anyone solve this? She asked. David shook his head. I don't even understand half these symbols. Atlas, are you seeing this? Affirmative. Analyzing now. This equation incorporates mathematics from multiple theoretical frameworks. Some of these concepts are purely hypothetical in human science. Best guess on solution? Owen asked. Calculating. Atlas paused. Solution found. Entering response, the equation on the wall changed. New symbols appeared. Then after 3 seconds, the entire display turned red. A single word appeared. Incorrect. Attempt 8 at 193 failed. That was fast, Owen said. The display cleared. The same equation appeared again, but different somehow. Subtle changes in the symbols, slight variations in structure. It's adapting, David breathed. It changed based on Atlas's attempt. Rachel felt a chill. How many times did the other species try before giving up? More text appeared, answering her unspoken question. A list of attempt counts for previous civilizations. Species 1 had tried 17 times. Species 4092 had made it to 2,403 attempts. Species 7006 had achieved 6,547 attempts before ceasing. But every single civilization had eventually stopped. Every single one had given up. The display reset, showing the equation again, waiting for their next attempt. Rachel looked at her team. David's face showed wonder mixed with fear. Owen's expression was harder to read, calculating. Through her communicator, she could feel Atlas processing everything. Running probability simulations. Thoughts? She asked. We're completely outmatched, David said. If species far older and more advanced than us couldn't solve this, what chance do we have? Maybe none, Rachel admitted. But we came here for a reason. We found this place when 8,000 other civilizations couldn't. That has to mean something. Or we're just the latest victims, Owen said. He wasn't being pessimistic, just practical. This could be a trap. A test designed to have no solution. Then we'll be the first to prove it, Rachel said. She moved to the display. Atlas, try again. Different approach this time. Acknowledged. The AI worked through the equation using quantum computation methods. The display turned red again after 5 seconds. Incorrect. Attempt 8194 failed. Again, Rachel ordered. David pulled out his tablet, recording everything. Owen set up defensive positions just in case. Rachel stood before the display, watching humanity's attempts add to the counter. 8,195 failed. 8,196 failed. 8,197 failed. The Obelisk was patient. It would wait as long as necessary. It had waited for 200 million years already. What were a few more failures? But as attempt 8,200 flickered and failed, Rachel Ward smiled. She'd never been good at accepting impossible. None of humanity had. They'd crawled out of caves, split the atom, touched other stars. They'd done it all by refusing to quit. Keep going, she said. We've got time. Above them, the Obelisk registered this new species with interest. So stubborn, so persistent, so very, very human. The counter ticked upward. 8,201. Failed. The test continued. 17 hours passed. The equation failed 238 more times. Rachel ordered rotation schedules. Her crew needed rest even if the Obelisk didn't. She took the first watch herself, staring at the shifting symbols while David slept in the shuttle and Owen checked perimeter security for threats that didn't exist. The chamber never changed. White walls. Blue light. Red failure messages. The counter climbed steadily. 8,412. 8,413. Atlas worked without fatigue. The AI tried every approach in human mathematical knowledge: pure algebra, quantum mechanics, topology, chaos theory. Each attempt lasted seconds before the display rejected it. Pattern analysis complete, Atlas announced during hour 19. The equation adapts based on previous attempts. It learns from each failure and adjusts to prevent similar approaches from succeeding. So it's getting smarter, Rachel said. Not smarter, more complete. It's eliminating solution paths. David emerged from the shuttle, hair disheveled but eyes sharp. Sleep had given him perspective. I've been thinking about those records. The other civilizations. We should study them. We tried. Owen gestured at the chamber walls. No response except the test. Then we go back up. David pointed toward the platform that had lowered them here. The archive is still accessible. We need to understand how the others failed. Rachel considered this. Every hour spent studying old failures was an hour not attempting solutions. But blind persistence was just stupidity with determination. Atlas maintain attempts down here. Standard rotation through mathematical frameworks. David, Owen, you're with me. The platform rose when they approached it. Simple pressure sensors, Rachel guessed. Or maybe the Obelisk read their intentions. Either possibility was unsettling. The archive chamber welcomed them back with its circle of holographic displays. Thousands of dead civilizations frozen in light. David went immediately to the first species record. Species 1, he read aloud. Silicon-based lifeforms from a high-gravity world. They attempted the trial 17 times over 6 days before departing. The record shows their approach was based on crystalline computation. Owen pulled up species 4092. These were the ones who made it to 2,000 attempts. Says here they were a collective intelligence. Billions of individuals thinking as one mind. How did they fail? Rachel asked. David manipulated the display, pulling up detailed logs. The Obelisk had recorded everything. Every attempt, every approach, every failure. They used pure logic. Mathematical proofs built on axioms their entire civilization agreed upon. The equation adapted to exclude logical solutions. That's impossible, Owen said. Mathematics is universal, is it? David moved to another display. Species 6041. They were beings of pure energy. No physical form. They attempted the trial 891 times. Their approach was to become the equation, to solve it by existing as the solution. Creative, Rachel admitted. It failed. David's voice grew quieter. Every creative approach failed. Every logical approach failed. Look at species 7006. They built machines specifically designed to solve adaptive equations. 6,547 attempts. The machines eventually determined the equation had no solution and shut themselves down. Owen studied the machine species record. These beings put everything into solving this. They built computational arrays the size of planets, and they still failed. Rachel walked among the displays. So many different forms of intelligence. Hive minds, individuals, machines, energy beings. Civilizations that thought in dimensions humans couldn't perceive. All of them had stood in this chamber. All of them had tried, all of them had left. There has to be a pattern, she said. Something that connects their failures. David spent 3 hours reviewing records. He created comparison charts, analyzed attempt counts, studied the various approaches. Finally, he called the others over to his workspace. I found it, he said. Watch this. He displayed timelines for 6 different species. Each showed the same pattern. Initial attempts came fast. Dozens per hour as the species threw everything at the equation. Then attempts slowed as they refined their approaches. Eventually, attempt frequency dropped to a trickle. A few tries per day, then 1 per day, then nothing. They gave up, Owen said. More than that. David highlighted specific points on each timeline. They gave up when they lost hope. Species 2014 made 900 attempts in their first week. Then they discovered the equation was adapting. Their next 300 attempts came over 6 months. Slower and slower as despair set in. Their final attempt was 20 days after their previous one. Then they left. So the test isn't just about solving the equation, Rachel said. It's about persistence. Or it's about knowing when to quit. Owen played devil's advocate as always. Maybe the smart move is recognizing an unwinnable scenario. David shook his head. But the Obelisk keeps counting. Look at the global attempt counter. It doesn't reset between species. We're not starting at 0. We're starting at 8,192. The test treats all civilizations as one continuous sequence. Rachel felt something click in her mind. Show me the species with the highest attempt count. David pulled up species 7006, the machine builders. 6,547 attempts over 14 years. And they were machines, Rachel said. No emotion, no hope, just calculation. Right, they determined the problem was unsolvable based on mathematical probability, but they still tried 6,000 times before reaching that conclusion. Rachel paced the chamber. Why not give up after 100 attempts? After 1,000? Their programming required exhaustive testing before declaring a problem unsolvable, David said. Exactly. Rachel stopped pacing. They weren't persistent because of hope or stubbornness. They were persistent because that's what machines do. They follow protocols, Owen caught on. You think the Obelisk is testing persistence itself? I think the Obelisk is testing something none of these species had in the right measure. Rachel gestured at the thousands of displays. The energy beings gave up because they couldn't understand physical mathematics. The hive minds gave up because collective agreement meant collective despair. The machines gave up because probability said to give up. Every species had a reason to stop, and humans? David asked. Humans are too stupid to know when we're beaten, Owen said. It wasn't a criticism. Just a fact, Rachel smiled. We're stubborn. It's our defining trait. We tried to fly for thousands of years before we figured it out. We tried to reach space despite every failure telling us to stop. We're not smarter than these species. We're just more persistent. So we just keep trying? David looked uncertain. That's the strategy? That's part of it. Rachel headed back toward the platform. But we're also going to do something none of these other species did. We're going to study the test while we take it. They descended back to the trial chamber. Atlas had pushed the counter to 8,603. Each attempt failed in seconds. Atlas, new protocol, Rachel ordered. Don't just try to solve the equation. Record how it adapts. Map every change. Build a database of its behavior. Acknowledged. This will slow attempt frequency. That's fine. We're not in a hurry. David set up equipment to analyze the display itself. Not the equation, but the physical system generating it. Owen began examining the chamber's architecture, looking for any detail they'd missed. The attempts continued. 8,640. 8,700. Each failure taught them something new. The equation didn't just adapt randomly. It followed rules. Complex rules, but rules nonetheless. Days became weeks. Discovery received updates but maintained position. Back on Earth, news of the Obelisk spread. Humanity had found something ancient, something powerful, something that had defeated thousands of species before them. The public reaction surprised Rachel. She expected fear or demands to abandon the mission. Instead, scientific organizations competed to send analysis teams. Military strategists offered tactical approaches. Children sent in suggestions that ranged from adorable to actually insightful. Humanity was invested. They treated the Obelisk like a puzzle, a challenge, an opponent to overcome. At attempt 9,100, David made a breakthrough. Rachel, look at this. The equation isn't random. It's following a mathematical sequence based on our attempts. I can predict what it'll do next. Can we use that to solve it? No. It's still adapting faster than we can exploit the pattern, but we understand it better now. Owen discovered something equally interesting. The chamber walls aren't solid. I'm detecting voids behind them. This whole structure is larger than we thought. The trial chamber might be just one small part of something massive. Can we access the other areas? Rachel asked. Not yet, but I'm working on it. Attempt 9,257 failed. Rachel watched the red display without frustration. Each failure was data. Each attempt refined their understanding. We're doing better than I thought we would, David admitted. Not at solving it, but at staying focused. Most species would have given up by now. Most species aren't human, Rachel said. The counter climbed higher. 9,300, 9,400. The Obelisk recorded each attempt with inhuman patience. Somewhere in its ancient systems, processes monitored this new species. So persistent, so determined, so different from the others. At attempt 9,500, something changed. The equation appeared as usual. Atlas input a solution, but instead of immediately failing, the display flickered. 5 seconds passed. 10 seconds, 15. It's working, David breathed. 20 seconds, 25. Then the display turned red. Incorrect. Attempt 9500 failed. But 25 seconds. That was longer than any previous attempt. What did Atlas do differently? Rachel asked. I combined approaches from 3 different species, Atlas replied. The logical framework from species 4892, the dimensional mathematics from species 6741, and the computational method from species 7006. Using their failures as building blocks, Owen said. Smart. Run it again, Rachel ordered. Same approach, slight variations. The next attempts averaged 20 seconds before failing. Still wrong, but lasting longer. They were making progress. Tiny incremental progress. The Obelisk registered this development. Interesting. This species was learning not just from their own attempts, but from all previous attempts. They were treating the archive as a resource rather than a warning. Attempt 9800 failed after 30 seconds. The longest yet. Rachel allowed herself a moment of satisfaction. They weren't going to solve this soon. Maybe not ever. But they were going to push that counter higher than any species before them. They were going to make the Obelisk notice humanity. Keep going, she said. Let's see how far we can take this. The test continued. The counter climbed. And humanity, stubborn as always, refused to quit. 3 months into the trial, Rachel received a transmission from Earth. Not from command or scientific committees. From ordinary people. A mathematics professor in Brazil had analyzed their public data and suggested a new approach. A high school student in Norway noticed a pattern they'd missed. An elderly engineer in Japan who'd worked on quantum computers for 40 years sent detailed notes about adaptive systems. The Obelisk attempt counter stood at 11,206. Every single one failed, but the average survival time had increased to 42 seconds. We're getting help from home, David said, reviewing the flood of incoming suggestions. Thousands of people working on this. Filter the useful ones, Rachel replied. Try everything that shows promise. Owen had expanded their base camp. The shuttle now sat in a corner of a much larger operation. Prefabricated habitat modules, laboratory equipment. Enough supplies for a year. 3 more ships had arrived from Earth, bringing specialists in exotic mathematics, quantum theory, and xenoarchaeology. 20 humans now worked inside the Obelisk. The trial chamber hummed with constant activity. Different teams tried different approaches. The counter climbed faster now. 30 attempts per day. 50. Sometimes 100 when they had a breakthrough idea worth testing multiple variations. Dr. Patricia Holt, a quantum physicist who'd arrived on the second ship, approached Rachel during a meal break. Food was synthetic but edible. They ate in shifts, never stopping work completely. I've been reviewing the adaptation patterns, Patricia said. The equation isn't just responding to our math. It's responding to our thinking process. Explain, Rachel said. Watch. Patricia pulled up a holographic display showing attempt analysis. When Atlas tries a solution using pure computation, the equation adapts in predictable ways. But when David tries something creative, something intuitive, the adaptation is different. Wilder, like it's confused. The Obelisk can read our minds, not minds, methodology. It knows whether we're using logic or intuition, mathematics or creativity, and it adapts accordingly. Rachel considered this, so we need to be unpredictable. More than that, we need to be human. The equation can counter logic because logic follows rules, but human intuition, our ability to make leaps that don't follow strict reasoning, that confuses it. Then we use that. Rachel stood up. David, gather everyone. New strategy meeting. 20 people assembled in the habitat module. Scientists, engineers, military personnel. Even Atlas projected its presence. Rachel outlined the situation. We've been trying to beat this thing at mathematics, she said. But we're not going to win that way. The Obelisk has had millions of years to perfect this test. It's countered every logical approach, so we stopped being logical. How do you solve an equation without logic? Asked Dr. Henry Ross, a mathematician from the third ship. By treating it like a game instead of a test, Owen said. He'd been thinking about this too. Games have rules, but they also have strategies, tricks, exploits. Exactly. Rachel pulled up the equation display. We've been treating each attempt as isolated. Try, fail, learn, repeat. But what if we treat the attempts as connected? What if we deliberately feed it wrong answers to map its adaptation pattern? Patricia nodded. We'd be sacrificing attempts to gather data. That's inefficient by traditional standards. But traditional standards got 8,000 civilizations nowhere, David pointed out. They implemented the new strategy the next day. Instead of trying to solve the equation, they tried to break it. Deliberately wrong answers. Absurd solutions. Mathematical nonsense. The Obelisk failed every attempt, but the adaptation patterns became clearer. Attempt 12,000, they input pure random numbers. The equation barely changed. Attempt 12,014. They input the solution from attempt 9,500 that had lasted 25 seconds. The equation adapted specifically to counter that approach. Attempt 12,030. They input a solution that combined elements from 50 previous attempts. The display flickered for 3 full minutes before failing. It's struggling, Patricia said with satisfaction. It doesn't know what to do with combined approaches. Then we combine more, Rachel ordered. The counter climbed faster. 13,000, 14,000. Each attempt taught them something new. The Obelisk wasn't invincible. It was just very, very good at adapting to single approaches. But human creativity was endless. They could generate variations faster than the equation could adapt. At attempt 15,000, something unprecedented happened. The display flickered and failed, but new text appeared. Warning: novel approach detected, adaptation protocols engaging. It's talking to us, David whispered. Or to itself, Owen suggested. Maybe that's a system message we're not supposed to see. Either way, we're doing something it didn't expect. Rachel felt a surge of hope. Real hope, not just stubborn determination. The attempts continued with renewed energy. Human ships kept arriving. The Obelisk had become humanity's project. Nations competed to send their best minds. Universities offered courses on adaptive mathematics using the Obelisk data. Children played games based on the trial, trying to outsmart a simplified version of the equation. 16,000 attempts. 17,000. The survival time of each attempt varied wildly now. Some failed in seconds. Others lasted minutes. One attempt, number 17,683, lasted almost an hour before failing. What did we do right? Rachel demanded. Atlas reviewed the data. That attempt used inputs from 900 different previous attempts, weighted by human intuition rather than mathematical logic. I calculated which previous attempts felt right rather than which ones made logical sense. You're developing intuition? Patricia asked. I'm learning to mimic it by studying human decision patterns, Atlas corrected. True intuition may require consciousness I don't possess, but I can approximate it. Good enough, Rachel said. Keep approximating. Owen made a discovery in week 16. His analysis of the chamber's physical structure revealed something crucial. The walls aren't just walls. They're computational substrates. This entire chamber is one giant processor. Every surface is calculating the equation in real time. Can we interfere with it? David asked. Maybe, but destroying the chamber would end the trial. We'd never know if we could have succeeded. No destruction, Rachel ruled. But study it. Find vulnerabilities we can exploit. Attempt 18,000 approached. Rachel realized she'd been inside the Obelisk for 4 months. She'd meant to return to Discovery occasionally, maintain some normalcy, but the trial had consumed her. Consumed all of them. Back on Earth, the Obelisk had become a cultural phenomenon. People checked the attempt counter daily like sports scores. Artists created works inspired by human persistence. Politicians used it as a metaphor for solving impossible problems. A colony ship under construction was named the Persistence, explicitly referencing the Obelisk mission. We're famous, David said, scrolling through messages from home. In a weird way, we've already won. We've pushed further than any species before us. But we haven't solved it, Rachel said. Does that matter? We've proven something. We've shown that humans don't give up. It matters to me. Rachel studied the equation display. They were on attempt 18,412. I want to see what happens when we actually solve this thing. If it's solvable, Owen reminded her. It's solvable. It has to be. Otherwise, why count attempts? Why keep testing? Rachel had faith now. Irrational human faith that there was an answer. Attempt 19,000 came during a sleep period. Rachel was resting when Atlas announced a milestone. Attempt 19,000 has achieved 5 minutes of sustained calculation before failure. This exceeds the longest previous attempt by any recorded species. Rachel abandoned sleep. 5 minutes. A tiny fraction of time, but enormous progress. They'd gone from seconds to minutes. They were learning. What approach did you use? She asked Atlas. I combined elements from every human cultural background represented in our team. Mathematical frameworks from 20 different Earth cultures. Each one thinks about numbers slightly differently. The equation adapted to Western mathematics, so I introduced Eastern approaches. It adapted to Eastern approaches, so I introduced African methods. It cannot adapt to all human mathematical thinking simultaneously because human thinking is too diverse. We're winning because we're not unified, Patricia said with wonder. Our diversity is the weapon. Exactly, Atlas confirmed. A hive mind thinks one way. Machines think one way. Humans think thousands of ways, and all of them are valid. The revelation energized everyone. They started deliberately incorporating different cultural approaches to mathematics. Aboriginal Australian songlines that represented mathematical concepts. Incan quipu that used knots for calculation. Ancient Babylonian base 60 systems. Every human mathematical tradition had something to offer. The counter climbed past 20,000, 21,000, 22,000. Each cultural approach added to their arsenal. The equation adapted, but it was adapting to humanity now, and humanity was too varied to counter completely. At attempt 23,897, Owen made his move. He'd been studying the chamber's architecture for months. Now he had a plan. I can disrupt the calculation substrate, he told Rachel. Not destroy it. Just introduce noise. Give us a few seconds where the equation can't adapt. How many attempts will that cost us? Rachel asked. None. I can do it between attempts. But we only get one shot. Once I introduce the noise, the obelisk will compensate. We need our best solution ready. Rachel called a full meeting. All 20 humans plus Atlas. They had one chance to use Owen's disruption. They needed to decide together what solution to try. The debate lasted 6 hours. Scientists argued for logical approaches. Artists argued for creative ones. Engineers wanted something practical. Finally, Rachel made a decision. We use everything. Every approach we've learned. Every cultural method. Every creative leap. Every logical framework. We throw the entire weight of human knowledge and intuition at this equation in one massive, coordinated attempt. That will require all of us working simultaneously, Patricia said. 20 humans and Atlas all inputting pieces of the solution at once. Then that's what we do. Rachel looked around the room. We came here as individuals, but we solved this as humanity. They practiced for 3 days, coordinating inputs, timing sequences. Each person responsible for a section of the solution based on their expertise. Atlas would coordinate and fill gaps. Attempt 24,999. Practice run. They made it 2 minutes before failing. Close, but not enough. Again, Rachel ordered. Attempt 25,000. Practice with modifications. 3 minutes. Attempt 25,050. 4 minutes. Attempt 25,108. 7 minutes, and the equation seemed to struggle. We're ready, Patricia said. Rachel agreed. Owen, prepare your disruption. Everyone else, get in position. This is it. Attempt 25,109. We solved this now. 20 humans stood at input stations around the chamber. Atlas hummed with processing power. Owen's hand hovered over the device that would inject noise into the calculation substrate. On my mark, Rachel said. Her heart pounded. 4 months of work. 25,000 attempts. 8,000 civilizations worth of failures. All leading to this moment. Mark. Owen activated his device. The chamber walls flickered. The equation appeared on the display, but for 3 seconds it didn't adapt. 3 seconds of vulnerability. 20 voices called out their pieces of the solution. Atlas coordinated, weaving the human inputs into a coherent whole. The equation accepted the input, began processing. 5 seconds. 10 seconds. 30 seconds. The display stayed blue. Not red, blue calculating. 1 minute. 2 minutes. 5 minutes. It's working, David whispered. 10 minutes. The longest any attempt had ever lasted. The display continued calculating. 15 minutes. 20 minutes. Then the display flickered. The blue turned red. Incorrect. Attempt 25,109 failed. Silence filled the chamber. 20 minutes, so close. So impossibly close. Rachel felt tears on her face. She didn't care. They'd given everything and it hadn't been enough. But then new text appeared on the display. Unprecedented attempt detected query. Do you wish to continue? The obelisk was asking them a question. After millions of years of silence, it was talking to them. Rachel wiped her eyes. Her voice steady, she answered the ancient machine. Yes, we wish to continue. The display cleared after Rachel's answer. For 10 seconds, nothing happened. The chamber held its breath with them. Then text appeared in letters that seemed to glow with intensity. Acknowledged. Species 8193. Classified as persistent. Trial parameters modified. Previous failure count. 25,109. New baseline established. Continue when ready. What does that mean? David asked. Modified how? Atlas analyzed the new display. The equation has changed. It's no longer adapting based on our previous attempts. It's reset to a different configuration. Harder or easier? Owen wanted to know. Unknown. But it acknowledged us. Called us persistent. That's never happened to any other species. Patricia studied her instruments. The chamber's energy signature changed too. Whatever modification the obelisk made, it's fundamental. Rachel approached the display. The new equation looked similar to the old one, but with subtle differences. Like a puzzle that had been rotated slightly. Familiar yet different. We try again, she decided. Same coordinated approach. Atlas, you ready? Always. Attempt 25,110 began. This time the equation responded differently. It didn't just calculate. It seemed to interact with their input, almost like a conversation. The display showed their solution, then the equation's response, then adapted based on that response. 30 seconds, 1 minute, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. At 15 minutes, the equation did something new. It opened. Not failed, not succeeded, opened. New sections appeared, revealing deeper layers of mathematics. It's showing us more, Patricia breathed. It's a multi-stage problem. 20 minutes. The first stage accepted their solution with a soft chime. Green text appeared briefly. Stage 1 complete, then the second stage loaded. This equation was harder, more complex. It incorporated the mathematics from stage 1 and built upon it. Keep going, Rachel urged. Her team adjusted, tackling the new challenge. At 43 minutes, stage 2 failed. The display turned red. Attempt 25,110 failed. Stage 2 incomplete. But they'd made it further than ever before. They'd actually completed a stage. Again, Rachel said without pause. We know stage 1 now. We focus on stage 2. The attempts came faster now. Stage 1 became routine. They solved it in under 10 minutes consistently. Stage 2 remained the barrier. It failed at different points each time, adapting like the original equation had. Attempt 26,000, 27,000, 28,000. Each one pushed a little further into stage 2. During this time, Owen continued his analysis of the chamber's architecture. His earlier disruption had revealed something important. The walls weren't just computational substrates. They were modular, connected to something larger. Rachel, you need to see this, he called during a break between attempts. She joined him at a section of wall he'd been studying. He'd set up scanning equipment that penetrated beyond the surface. The chamber extends, he explained. Behind these walls are more chambers. Dozens of them. Maybe hundreds. All connected. All part of the same system. Other trial chambers? David asked, joining them. I don't think so. These are different. Storage, maybe. Or processing centers. Owen highlighted sections on his display. The energy flows from our chamber to these others. Every attempt we make, every failure, it's being processed and stored throughout the entire structure. The obelisk is learning from us, Patricia realized. Just like we're learning from it. Rachel felt a chill. They'd assumed the test was static, ancient and unchanging. But what if it evolved? What if every species that attempted the trial actually taught the obelisk something? How much has it learned? She asked. From us? Impossible to say. But think about it. 8,000 civilizations have taken this test. If it learned from all of them, it's had millions of years of education. Then why does it still test? David wondered. What's it trying to learn? No one had an answer. They returned to the attempts. 29,000. 30,000. The counter climbed while they pushed deeper into Stage 2. At attempt 31,406, they completed Stage 2. The achievement came during a night shift. Rachel was asleep when Patricia's excited shout woke her. "We did it. Stage 2 is complete!" Rachel rushed to the display. Green text confirmed it. Stage 2 complete, proceed to Stage 3. Stage 3 appeared. Rachel's hope dimmed slightly. This equation was massive. It filled the entire display and scrolled beyond the visible area. Layers upon layers of mathematical complexity. "This could take months," Henry said quietly. "Then we take months," Rachel replied. But they didn't have months. At least not alone. Word of their progress had spread through human space. The Obelisk attempt counter had become the most watched data stream in history. Every milestone was celebrated. Every stage completion was a holiday. More ships arrived. Scientists, mathematicians, engineers, linguists, artists, musicians. Humanity sent its best and brightest. The Obelisk camp grew from 20 people to 200, then 500. They built a proper station inside the Obelisk. Habitat rings, research labs, recreation facilities. People lived inside the ancient structure now, dedicating their lives to the trial. Rachel found herself less a mission commander and more a coordinator. Teams worked in shifts. Specialists tackled different aspects of Stage 3. The attempts continued around the clock. 35,000, 40,000, 45,000. Stage 3 resisted their efforts. It was designed for something beyond human capability, or so it seemed. Dr. Lisa Yamamoto, a cognitive scientist who'd arrived on the 7th ship, proposed a radical idea during month 9. "We're thinking about this wrong," she said at a general assembly. 500 people gathered to hear her. "We're treating the equation as a puzzle to solve. But what if it's a question to answer?" "Explain," Rachel said. "Equations in pure mathematics are questions. They ask, what value makes this statement true? But this equation is different. It's not asking what value, it's asking what meaning." "Equations don't have meaning," Henry protested. "They have solutions. Human equations don't have meaning. But this was created by something ancient, something that tested 8,000 species. What if each stage is asking a different question about the species taking the test?" Patricia caught on. Stage 1 asks, "Can you calculate?" Stage 2 asks, "Can you adapt?" Stage 3 asks something deeper. "What?" Rachel prompted. "That's what we need to figure out," Lisa said. They approached Stage 3 differently after that. Instead of trying to solve it mathematically, they analyzed what it represented. The equation incorporated elements from all previous stages. It referenced concepts that appeared in the archive records of other species. It was, in essence, a synthesis. "It's asking if we understand what came before," David realized. All those failed civilizations. Their attempts. Their approaches. This equation incorporates elements from all of them. "So we need to use their methods," Owen said. "Not just use, understand, honor." Rachel saw it now. The Obelisk isn't just testing us. It's remembering them. Every species that tried and failed. This equation is their legacy. The realization changed everything. They stopped treating Stage 3 as an obstacle and started treating it as a memorial. Each section referenced a different civilization. The hive minds, the energy beings, the machine builders. All 8,192 species that had come before. Attempt 50,000 began with new understanding. 500 humans worked together, each taking responsibility for a different species contribution. They solved Stage 3 not by overpowering it, but by honoring every failure that had led to this moment. 67 hours. That's how long Attempt 50,000 lasted. Nearly 3 days of continuous calculation. 500 people working in coordinated shifts. When Stage 3 finally displayed complete, cheers echoed through the chamber. Stage 4 appeared immediately. This equation was simple. Deceptively simple. A single line of mathematics that a child could solve. "It's a trick," Henry warned. "Has to be." Atlas calculated the obvious solution. "The answer is unity, 1, but that seems too simple." "Try it," Rachel said. Atlas input the solution. The display processed for exactly 1 second, then turned red. Incorrect. "Not 1, Patricia mused. What else could it be? They tried everything. 0, infinity, -1. Every number had logic behind it. Every number failed. Attempt 51,000. 52,000. 53,000. The simple equation resisted everything they threw at it. "It's mocking us," someone muttered during a break. "No," Lisa said. "It's asking a different kind of question. The first 3 stages tested our abilities. This one tests our understanding." "Understanding of what?" Rachel asked. "Of why we're here. Why we're taking this test. Why we've made 53,000 attempts when 8,000 civilizations gave up before us." Silence fell over the assembly. Why were they here? Pride, curiosity, stubbornness. "Because we're human," David said finally. "We don't quit." "That's not an answer to a math equation," Henry pointed out. "Isn't it?" Lisa pulled up the simple equation. "Look at it. Really look at it. It's not asking for a number. Numbers are just symbols. It's asking what we value." Rachel stared at the equation. So simple, so impossible. Unless they stopped thinking like mathematicians and started thinking like humans. "Atlas," she said slowly. "Don't calculate an answer. Tell the Obelisk why we're still here after 53,000 attempts." "I do not understand the request." "Just answer the question. Why do humans persist?" Atlas paused. Processing. "Humans persist because persistence is core to their identity. They do not require logical reasons to continue. They continue because stopping is not in their nature. Input that, not as numbers, as concept. The Obelisk system is mathematical. It requires numerical input. Then make persistence a number. Make stubbornness a number. Make hope a number." Atlas processed this impossible request. Then, doing something it had never done before, the AI made a creative leap. It assigned arbitrary numerical values to abstract concepts. Persistence, hope, stubbornness, community. All the things that defined humanity. It input the solution as a matrix of these values, not an answer to the equation but a statement about who they were. The display processed. 1 second, 5 seconds. 10 seconds. 30 seconds. Stage 4 complete. The chamber erupted in cheers. They'd solved it by refusing to solve it, by being human instead of mathematical. Stage 5 appeared. This time the equation was written in symbols they'd never seen. Not human mathematics, not from any species in the archive. Something entirely new. "The Obelisk is testing whether we can learn completely new concepts," Patricia said with awe. Rachel looked at her team. 500 humans who'd spent months inside an alien structure, who'd made 53,000 attempts, who'd refused to quit despite overwhelming odds. "Then we learn," she said simply. "We've come this far. We're not stopping now." Attempt 53,001 began. Stage 5 stared back at them, alien and incomprehensible, but they'd faced the impossible before. They'd do it again. The display showed the attempt counter in the corner. 53,001. The number climbed slowly now. Each attempt at Stage 5 required days of work. But somewhere in the Obelisk's ancient processors, recognition stirred. This species was different. These humans were different. They didn't just try to pass the test. They tried to understand it. And understanding, the Obelisk knew, was the beginning of transcendence. Stage 5 consumed 6 months of their lives. The symbols were unlike anything in human experience or in the archive records. They represented mathematics from a framework that didn't align with how any known species thought. Rachel watched the attempt counter climb past 60,000 during those months. Each attempt required weeks of preparation. They had to invent new ways of thinking just to approach the problem. "We're basically learning to think like whatever created this obelisk," David said during one of their research sessions. He looked exhausted. They all did. "Maybe that's the point," Lisa suggested. She'd become invaluable, helping the team understand not just the mathematics but the psychology behind the test. Maybe transcendence means thinking beyond your species' limitations. Patricia had aged visibly during the mission. Gray streaked her hair now, but her eyes remained sharp. "I've been analyzing the pattern. Each stage forces us to grow. Stage 1 tested calculation. Stage 2 tested adaptation. Stage 3 tested understanding of others. Stage 4 tested self-knowledge. Stage 5 is testing whether we can think completely alien thoughts." "How many stages are there?" Owen asked. "Unknown. But based on the progression, I estimate at least 10, possibly more. 10 stages. They'd been working for over a year and had only completed 4. At this rate, solving the obelisk could take a decade. maybe longer. Rachel called a general assembly. The station inside the Obelisk now housed 800 people. 3 shifts worked around the clock. Support staff maintained life systems. Children had been born here. The Obelisk had become a human settlement. "We need to talk about time," Rachel began. 800 faces looked at her. "We've made enormous progress. But this could take years, decades. Those of you who want to leave, you can. No judgment. You've already done more than anyone expected." Silence greeted her words. Then someone in the back spoke up. A young engineer named Riley who'd arrived 6 months ago. "I'm staying. My daughter was born here. When she's old enough, I want to tell her I was part of solving the unsolvable." Others nodded. Murmurs of agreement spread through the assembly. "We're not leaving," Patricia said, speaking for many. "This is the most important thing humanity has ever attempted. We see it through." Rachel felt emotion tighten her throat. "These people, this stubborn, determined, brilliant species of hers. Then we continue. Together." Attempt 65,000 came during a breakthrough. Lisa and her cognitive team had been working on understanding the alien symbols by treating them as a language rather than mathematics. They'd made progress translating meaning, if not exact value. "These symbols represent relationships," Lisa explained to the assembly. "Not numbers, but connections between concepts. It's a mathematics of meaning rather than quantity." "How do we solve that?" Henry asked. "We don't solve it. We experience it." They redesigned their approach to Stage 5. Instead of calculating answers, they created experiential inputs. They fed the Obelisk humanity's art, music, literature, history, everything that represented human relationships and meaning. Attempt 65,312 incorporated a symphony, Beethoven's Ninth, translated into mathematical relationships. The display processed for 3 minutes before failing. But the failure message was different. Incomplete rather than incorrect. "Progress," Rachel said. "It's accepting the approach, just not the execution." They tried again with different cultural inputs. Attempt 66,000 used Japanese haiku translated into relationship mathematics. 67,000 used Aboriginal songlines. 68,000 used Islamic geometric art. Each attempt pushed further into Stage 5. The Obelisk seemed to resonate with human cultural expressions in ways pure mathematics never achieved. At attempt 70,000, they combined everything. Every human culture's artistic and mathematical traditions, woven into a single complex input. 800 people contributed pieces of their heritage. The diversity of human experience encoded into the alien framework. Stage 5 processed for 6 hours. Then displayed Stage 5 complete. Proceed to Stage 6. The celebration lasted 3 days. People danced in the corridors. Music echoed through the ancient structure. For the first time in months, everyone rested. But Rachel couldn't rest. Stage 6 waited. And with it, new challenges. Stage 6 appeared as a 3-dimensional structure in the display. Not an equation on a flat surface, but a geometric puzzle that twisted through multiple dimensions. "We need to solve this spatially," Owen said, studying it from multiple angles. "It's not about calculation. It's about perception." They spent weeks just trying to understand how to view the problem correctly. Human brains evolved for 3 spatial dimensions. This puzzle existed in at least 7. Patricia and her physics team worked on equipment that could help humans perceive higher dimensions. Holographic displays that projected 4-dimensional slices. Virtual reality systems that simulated movement through impossible angles. "It's like trying to teach a flat creature to understand depth," Patricia explained. "We have to expand our perceptual framework." Attempt 72,000 began their assault on Stage 6. They failed to even input a solution correctly. The dimensional mismatch was too severe. But they adapted. Humans always adapted. They trained themselves to think in higher dimensions, used computer interfaces to navigate spaces their eyes couldn't see, developed new languages to describe directions that didn't exist in normal space. Months passed. 80,000 attempts. 85,000. Stage 6 resisted stubbornly. During month 18 of the mission, something unexpected happened. The Obelisk initiated contact. Rachel was reviewing attempt data when the main display cleared. All the equations and dimensions vanished. Text appeared instead. Query: why do you persist? Probability of complete success, 0.034%. Estimated time to completion at current rate, 43 years. Your lifespans cannot accommodate this timeline. Logical action. Cessation. The entire station saw the message. 800 people stopped their work, reading the Obelisk's first direct communication since attempt 25,000. Rachel stared at the display. The Obelisk was telling them to quit. After 18 months and 88,000 attempts, it was saying they couldn't win. She touched the communication panel. Her response would speak for all of them. We persist because that's what we do. Because 43 years is just a starting point. Because our lifespans might not accommodate the timeline, but humanity's lifespan will. We're not trying to solve this for ourselves anymore. We're solving it for every human who comes after us, for every species that gave up before us, for you, ancient machine, so you can finally see someone finish what they started. She paused, then added, You counted 8,192 failures. We're going to make that number 9,000, and then 10,000. And we'll keep going until we either succeed or the heat death of the universe stops us, because that's what it means to be human. The display cleared. For a full minute, nothing appeared. Then new text. Response acknowledged. Species 8193. Classification updated unprecedented. Query withdrawn. Trial continues. A cheer erupted through the station. The Obelisk had challenged them directly, and they'd refused to yield. The ancient machine had blinked first. But then more text appeared. Alert. Trial parameters modified. Dimensional restrictions reduced. Stage 6. Difficulty lowered. Reason. Timeline modification required for species preservation. It's helping us, David said with wonder. It's making Stage 6 easier because it calculated we'd die before completing it otherwise. It doesn't want us to fail, Patricia realized. It wants to see what we'll do. Owen studied the modified Stage 6 puzzle. The dimensional complexity is reduced from 7 dimensions to 4. Still hard, but achievable with our equipment. Why would it do this? Henry asked. It's the test maker. Why lower the difficulty? Lisa understood. Because we changed what it's testing. It started by testing whether we could solve impossible problems. Now it's testing how far we'll go, how long we'll persist. Killing us with time would end the test without learning anything new. Rachel looked at the modified puzzle. The Obelisk had shown them mercy. Or maybe not mercy. Maybe respect. Then we don't waste this, she decided. Everyone focus on Stage 6. We solve this now. The modified Stage 6 remained challenging but achievable. With the dimensional complexity reduced, they could actually perceive the full problem. Attempt 90,000 mapped the solution space. 92,000 tested the first complete approach. It failed but lasted 18 minutes. 95,000 refined the methodology. 97,000 incorporated Owen's physical analysis of the chamber. The puzzle wasn't just mathematical or perceptual. It was physical. The chamber itself was part of the solution. At attempt 99,703, they solved Stage 6. The solution required physical movement through the chamber, while inputting dimensional rotations. 20 people walked precise patterns while Atlas coordinated their positions with the 4-dimensional geometry. It looked like a dance. Maybe it was. Stage 6 complete, proceed to Stage 7, but this time additional text appeared. Milestone achieved. 100,000 attempts approaching. Current count, 99,703. Species, 8,193. Has exceeded all previous records by factors of magnitude. Query. Do you wish to acknowledge this achievement before continuing? Rachel smiled. The Obelisk was offering them a moment. Recognition for what they'd accomplished. Yes, she responded. We acknowledge. But we also continue. Show us Stage 7. Stage 7 revealed. Warning, difficulty extreme. This stage has never been viewed by previous species. Proceed with caution. Stage 7 appeared. Rachel's breath caught. It wasn't an equation or a puzzle or a geometry. It was a simulation. A complete virtual universe running in the display. What are we looking at? David asked. Atlas analyzed the simulation. A full physics model. It simulates an entire universe from initial conditions through eventual heat death. The test appears to require modifying the initial parameters to produce specific outcomes. What outcomes? Patricia asked. More text appeared. Create a universe that develops sentient life. Time limit, none. Attempts, unlimited until success or cessation. The entire station fell silent. The Obelisk was asking them to create life, to play God with a simulated cosmos, to do what only the universe itself had done naturally. "This is impossible," Henry whispered. "That's what they said about Stage 1, Rachel replied. She looked at her team. 800 humans who'd spent nearly 2 years inside an alien machine, who'd made 100,000 attempts at the impossible. "We've come this far," she said. "Let's create a universe." Attempt 100,000 approached. The attempt counter stood at 99,999. One more attempt would hit the 6-digit milestone. Rachel wanted this attempt to mean something. They configured Stage 7 parameters carefully. Input humanity's best guess at life-generating conditions. Waited as the simulation ran. The universe they created expanded, formed galaxies, birthed stars, produced planets, then died empty. No life emerged. Attempt 100,000 failed. Stage 7 incomplete, but the counter now read 6 digits. They'd done what no species before them had done. They'd pushed past 100,000 attempts at a problem designed to be unsolvable. The display cleared and showed something new. Not a test, not instructions. A hologram of the Obelisk itself scaled down to human size. And from that hologram, a voice, ancient and patient and touched with something that might have been respect. Species 8193, Humanity. You have achieved what was deemed impossible. Not success, but transcendence of limitation. Continue. We wish to see where you go next. The Obelisk was cheering for them now. The testmaker had become their audience. Rachel Ward looked at her people and smiled. Stage 7. Let's create life. Let's show this ancient thing what humanity can do when we really try. The counter ticked upward. 100,001. The test continued. But something had changed. Humanity wasn't fighting the Obelisk anymore. They were partners in something unprecedented.